Welcome to another tutorial. Today I would like to talk about black and white conversion. Inside Photoshop we have different ways to achieve a good black and white conversion. And today I'm going to show you a couple of ways where you can do that. So the first and the easiest way is to desaturate your image. So if I make a copy of this image, I go to the Image menu, Adjustment, Desaturate. And as you can see, we have a simple, clean black and white image. I will rename this layer Desaturate. Okay, this is the first way. The second way is by using an adjustment layer. So if I take the original image, Ctrl J to make a copy, and I apply an adjustment layer to this layer, black and white adjustment layer, and as you can see we have a nice and clean black and white image. But in this case we can tweak this image by changing the way that reds turn into a shade of gray, yellows, greens, cyans, blues and magentas. So I can tweak this image by using these sliders, reds, to change how reds turn into a shade of gray, yellows, greens, cyans, or by using this interesting function in here, I can select the color and then select which shade of gray I want to use. If I turn right, it's going to be brighter. If I turn left, it's going to be darker. So this second way gives a bit more control in the black and white conversion. So let me just rename this layer to keep all well organized. I call this original. And I merge these two layers just to have a nice and clean image. Okay, so we have the desaturated version and the black and white adjustment layer conversion. So the third way is by working with channels. So if I take the original image, make a copy of this layer, and go into Image, I have a very interesting function that is calculations, and I can work with channels. I can take, for instance, the original layer, original copy in this case, and I can merge one channel into another. For instance, I can use the red channel with the blue channel and achieve a very interesting contrast, or take the gray channel, in this case is just the luminosity information, with the red channel, and try different combinations to see which one suits my needs best. Okay, besides the channels, you can just set the way that these two channels interact with each other. In this case, I can use multiply to darken the image, I can use lighten or screen to lighten the image, or overlay to add more contrast. So this way has a very interesting controls that you can use to set up a good black and white conversion. In my case, I'm going to mix the gray channel with the red channel using the overlay blending method. Okay, now we have just one last option to select, and is where do we want to put the result of this operation, of this calculation. And I prefer to put the result in a new document, because when we work with the channels, we can just flatten all the image, and I prefer to put in a new document and then import it back to the original composition. So in this case, I click OK, and now I have a new document, but just with one channel. So I have to duplicate the channels twice to get a full 3 channels image and to convert to an RGB image. So now that I have 3 channels, I go to Image, Mode, RGB. And now I have the full image that I can import it back in my original composition. Okay, now that I have a full RGB image, I can import this image back to my composition. I drag the image into my composition and align to the center of the composition. I rename this layer Calculations, and now we have the third way of the third version of the black and white conversion. The last way that I'm going to show you is my favorite one. So if I turn off these layers just to see the original, and I apply an adjustment layer to this original copy, and the adjustment layer that I'm going to use is a gradient map. I'm going to use a black and white gradient, and to add to this gradient map another color by double clicking, and I choose a dark shade of gray. Okay? Now, to tweak this image, I can move this dark shade of gray to the right or to the left to get a brighter image, a brighter black and white conversion, or a darker black and white conversion. So I choose for this image a point in the middle like this. Okay, so this was the last technique. I click OK, and now I merge the adjustment layer and the original just to see the differences between the different ways. So we have 4 different types of conversion. We have the calculations technique that you can see in here. We have the desaturated version. We have an adjustment layer black and white conversion, and the gradient map. Each one has its own pro and con, so I suggest you to try, but my favorites are calculations and gradient map. I usually get the best results. So guys, this wraps up our tutorial on black and white conversion inside Photoshop, and I suggest you a third-party plugin, and this plugin is Nik Silver Efex. It's a very professional plugin for black and white conversion. So choose your technique, try different techniques to achieve the best results. Thank you for watching.